Yeah, and then when it comes down to actually paying for it, just gonna get a car year old.
Sorry, I don't care. I'm going to wear them with shorts. Anyway, I'm trying to get white shorts. I don't care. I'm not trying to impress it.
That's for tax. No, we did not. We did not. No, he did not win. I don't know about that, but he did not win. No, he was defeated. Like I said, I don't have to get to see the ability. Right.
Where's the felon? This is forecast already just moved in.
Next to me.
The White House is shooting down
I only talk.
So mine all the time. We changed the kitchen. Yeah, we changed the kitchen. Yeah, that's what we were told. That's the assessment.
It's not good for fine, but it's not good for finding a decision on the clock. You know?
It's like it's theory.
I was hoping last year
My sister and my kid. And they had some guy who popped up like that.
She was Chinese.
Right next to her.
times are hard, but you can't
That's what we got.
I know he's but not now. We can slide down our body. Thanks, bro. Now my kid. You guys matching?
Yes.
You
want to see over here?
Can I have your attention, please? Good evening. On behalf of Chairman Parker, the Board of Finance, the Boards of Education, and the Board of Selectmen, welcome to tonight's public hearing on the annual budget. My name is Joe Talisano. I'm the Vice Chair of the Board of Finance. Tonight you will hear from a number of speakers, starting with Dr. Galloway, moving to First Selectman Kinney, and then to our CFO. First two will talk to you about how we got to our $1.1 million increase, and probably the reason most of you are here. The CFO will talk about the mill rate reeval and how that impacts your personal finances. Then we get to hear from you.
Can you turn the volume up a little, please?
I don't know, can we?
Mike, put it close to your mouth. Can you hear him all right?
No.
No. Yes.
Right into it.
Yeah, you want me to start over?
No.
Thank you. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Dr. Galloway, who will start with the Board of Education budget. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening. Before I start the presentation, I would like to publicly thank our Board of Ed members, Mike Briggs, Ann Kirkpatrick, Sharon Goulet, Ed DePoe, J.T. Galloway, Shane Manning, Gina Olerchik, Kim Radowitz, and Derek Zellick. I'd like to thank them for their support for what we've been able to accomplish since I started here in April 2023. It is with their support that we are definitely trending in the right direction, and we have evidence to back that up. So on this first slide, I just mentioned the Board of Ed members. On the right, or probably your left, the district administration and our school leaders. My job is to support the leadership at the school building level, and I must say we have some outstanding school leaders in this district. From April of 2023, we've embarked upon a journey of what I would call a journey to be an exceptional school district. This has always been a good, solid district, but the objective, quite frankly, is to be an exceptional district, one that garners statewide attention in our state, to be a trendsetter, a leader among school districts in this state. We support our students with 4 tenets. These will never go out of style: critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication. We have been able to realize some district successes. We have very strong parent engagement. And if you can recall, over the past few years, I've talked about the statewide recognition of the middle school. They were the Connecticut Association of Schools Middle School of the Year. We now have the Elementary School of the Year, and those awards were achieved through strong family engagement, strong resources, specifically aligned curriculum, and outstanding staff. We now are out there recruiting the best and the brightest throughout the state. We have an employee assistance plan for our employees to maintain and retain our staff. Our high school is now a school of distinction, and we are preparing our students to go down either avenue, either post-secondary, military, or workforce. Bless you. So, for example, I talked about the elementary school, I've talked about the middle school, and here's our high school and our current standing statewide. In April of 2023, when I started, the data comes out at the end of the year. Summers High School was ranked number 63 in the state. The following year, number 23, and last year, currently ranked number 17. That was one of my tasks when the Board of Ed fired me, was to figure out why the high school was kind of middling along, and quite frankly, why the district was middling along. We have found and understood and do understand why. And it is through alignment of effort, coherence, collective efficacy, and quite frankly, the talent that we already had on the ground here, that now we're able to realize notable improvements. Regarding technology, we've improved in this area. We now engage in buyback programs where our technology is no longer just discarded. It is recycled back into the district. Our third graders have moved from using iPads to Chromebooks for two reasons. It's a cost savings, number one, and number two, it aligns better with the state assessments that they have to sit and take. And we now have a security system for the maintenance building, and we also have a district-wide alert system where every administrator is immediately notified if there's a lockdown emergency, so they can respond accordingly. I talked about alignment of effort and also being able to understand, are our efforts, are we realizing what we want out of our efforts? To that end, we now have a literacy leadership team that runs K-12. There are representatives from all three buildings on these leadership teams in literacy, mathematics, and also AI. Our special ed program is viable. We have several programs, specialized programs, which allow us to keep students in our district instead of outplacing them somewhere else. This is our budget development timeline. We started this process in August or October. Our principals come to the district office to advocate for their buildings that they lead, and it is the principal's job to advocate for their educational space, and then it is up to the district leadership and personnel to then prioritize specific building needs versus district needs. And we started this in August and October. And now, currently, as you know, we're in that March-April time frame. I presented the budget to our Board of Ed. I presented it to the Board of Finance. And here I sit tonight to present our budget to you. So for fiscal year 27, here's our slide. Last year we were at $30,476,322. The increase in dollars this year is $31,292,381. As you can see, an increase of $816,059, which is a 2.68% increase. And this, I don't know if I have a pointer here. So last year, we were over 5%. And I do recall members of this audience specifically did advise me not to come back this year with something similar. And I heard that loud and clear. But what I do want you to know and understand, when we have a personnel vacancy, we just don't fill that. We then start to make a determination, do we have people on staff who can absorb those responsibilities? And we go through a thoughtful process before we just replace a staff member. So I know the budget discussion is difficult, but we are coming to you this year with a 2.68 ask from over 4% of last year. And as you look at this slide, this is how our budget is broken down from a series 1,000 to 9,000. But it's also important to note that over 80% of our budget goes to personnel and benefits. So there's not a lot of discretionary funds for us. Some things are we are contractually obligated to follow through on. Those series lines from 1,000 to 9,000 add up to the $31,292,381. This is a different representation of the information that I showed you before, and when I talked about over 80% of our budget goes to salary and benefits, here's a pie chart that shows what I'm talking about. This slide here shows the distribution of changes. As you can see, purchase services, we had a decrease, supplies, a decrease, and property, we had a decrease. So I want to, continue to communicate that we, I believe, have been good stewards over the funds allocated to the Board of Education. We've realized efficiencies and savings through staff reductions. We've hired at lower rates of pay when feasible. And this is our budget process reductions. So we started out with a lot of asks, which is perfectly fine, as I said early in the process, for principals to come and advocate for their space. But everything doesn't make it. So we drastically reduced some of the asks, all while keeping in consideration our ability to deliver outstanding service to our students. As you can see, some of the reductions were a dean of students was proposed, social worker at the middle school was proposed. We realized some savings through retirements and health insurance adjustments. So from August, when the first ask came from school leadership and different departments, our budget was reduced over $650,000, which brings us to that 2.68% that I'm talking about tonight. Earlier, I talked about salaries and benefits taking up over 80% of our budget. Here are some of the contractual obligations that we are held to all through the negotiations process. As you can see, teachers are at 3.71, administrators 3.44, paraeducators 3%, administrative professionals 3%, admin professionals 3%, nurses and custodians, we're currently in negotiations with them now, so that is yet to be determined, and unaffiliated folks we won't know that until after this budget hopefully passes, then those decisions can be made. I just wanted to advise you on our enrollment. At the elementary school, we have 624 students. At the middle school, 306, and our high school is 393, and the total's 1,323 going for next year. That's our projection for next year. So over time, going forward, I do believe that our student enrollment is stable. And on this slide, it depicts magnet school enrollment and tuition. We do have parents who elect to send their children to magnet schools, and we pay tuition for that. So we have 11 students right now who are going to magnet schools, and that tuition cost is just over $36,000. We also pay tuition if students and their families elect to send their children to VOAG programs. And this past year, we had several students who are now attending the Rockville VOAG program. So, the question begs, why? And, at Rockville, they have a fully fledged, staffed FFA program. And some kids at that age, that is what they want to pursue. So that is beyond what we can deliver here. So we have some students who make a decision to go in that direction. And I just wanted to display the Tolland County per pupil expenditures. As you can see what the range is, Willington, Ellington, the Tolland County average at $22,809. And in Summers, we are at $21,729. You can see where we are on that bar graph. in closing, what we have, we've gone through the process of delivering a responsible budget, one that helps us continue on this path to be an exceptional school district without hiring 1 million staff folks with fancy programs. We do now have an aligned ELA program, language arts program, an aligned math program, and I've said before in Board of Ed meetings, we have yet to reach our ceiling. And I don't say that as a pie-in-the-sky statement. We are going to continue to get better as a school district. And our final number here is 2.68%. And here are our lovely, outstanding senior class. We have a small group, about 68 students for this year. So, I'll pass the clicker over to Selectman Kinney. So we go that way to go forward.
Good evening. My name is Tim Keeney. I'm your first selectman. I'm joined tonight by Selectman Meyer and Selectman Schmidt, who are both here this evening. Thank you very much. So the Board of Selectmen's budget has been meticulously developed through a structured and transparent process. This process ensures that the budget reflects the town's priorities with careful consideration given to each department's needs. The budget was adopted for fiscal year 2026-27 with an increase of $343,910 or 3.7% increase. The budget outlines the financial plan to maintain current service levels for the town for the coming year. And I want to underscore that. We're paying for current services while navigating large increases that we received in both health insurance and energy costs. So with regards to budget history, just wanted to mention that over the last 4 years, the average increase per year for the town's budget has been 3.01% annually, for a total of, over the last 4 years, 12.39%. And also, to put that to perspective, the cost of living adjustment / inflation over the same period, again, we were at 3.1%, is the cost of living inflation over the last same 4 years is 4.33%. So we've actually, even though we've had mandatory increases, we've managed to keep us under the inflation rate. So as I mentioned, we have large increases in energy and fuel costs. On the health insurance side, we've got 11.7% increase for the town's portion of the health insurance. As you can see, it's gone up significantly over the last several years. We have very little control over this, as you probably know, and that's one of the significant increases we've had to deal with. With regards to our pension program, it's worth mentioning the volunteer firefighters a couple of years ago. The Board of Selectmen has been very supportive over the last 4 years of trying to increase whatever benefits we could for volunteers, because we're very much aware of how important volunteers are and how, for some reason, people are less willing to volunteer these days. So we've really gone out of our way to support those volunteer firefighters, and in this case, we elected to increase the benefits for volunteers. It used to be, for the last couple of decades, I think, it was for every 1 year of service, you receive an equivalent of $5 per month of benefit. We doubled that, so We thought that that was pretty incredibly low ball, and so we doubled it. So now it's for every year of service, it's $10 per month retirement benefit. And we expect, and by the way, the amount funded for this retirement had been 117%. Now you hear about a lot of the pension funds in the state. Some of them are 60, 70, 80%. This was 117% funded. So we started with that, and by going to doubling the benefit, it immediately reduced the funding available for the ADAC, which is the Actuarial Determined Employee Contribution. We immediately reduced that so it was only 55% funded. But we believe over the next 5 to 6 years we will fully bring that back up to 100%, and we are not in any way threatened with the fact that it's only 55% funded today. So again, this is the pension liability for the town employees, and it's 105% funded today. And by the way, our pension committee, we're very blessed with a very strong pension committee in this town. We're blessed. They've got a lot of talent, vision, and they've done an outstanding job. In fact, we just had a meeting last Thursday, and I think that Summers came in right near the top of the performing towns in our area. So this is just a budget overview of departmental expenditures. As you can see, Public Works really has the bulk of it at 31%. Police and fire together total 17%. So this breaks it down to categorical expenditures, and I want to bring to your attention both the salaries and the benefits. Salaries at 43%, benefits at 19%. The benefits, I like to say that our salaries are kept at a lower level because our benefits are so beneficial, I should say. The benefit package that we produce is totals 43% of the total of benefits and salaries. So that kind of gives you a sense of the value of the benefits package. And by the way, the benefits are non-taxed. So I explain that to employees as well, that it's one of the great benefits that Summers offers is a very wealthy benefits package. So this is the categorical, let's see, the categorical budgetary changes. We had over the last couple of years, we've had a salary comparative analysis for the 6 towns around Summers that are equivalent in size and budget to Summers. And we felt it was very important to make sure that our salaries were competitive with other towns, because we've had examples of people that have left their job here in Summers, even though they've done a great job, because they were offered $20,000 or $30,000 more in another town. That may not have been as much fun to work in, but they went for the money. So we wanted to make sure that we kept our people on board. We've got a great group of people here in town. We've invested a lot in these people. They've learned much. They perform well. And it's a great team, and we want to keep them on board. So in order to do that, we had a salary comparative analysis, and the results of it went into effect January 1 of this year. What was the average increase, would you say?
8.5%, 9%.
So it's 8.5% or 9% increase, which seems like a lot of money, but the bottom line is these people, in my mind, had been underfunded for years. And we felt that we could afford to do that based on the fact that we weren't filling certain positions in town, like our human resources position. and a few other factors. So we were able to do it. It went into effect 1 January, and I think the employees are happy with it. At least nobody's left recently. Again, health insurance, I mentioned before, has gone up between 11 and 12%. Public safety, we had a new resident trooper. And because the new resident trooper had less seniority than the prior resident trooper we had, we were able to save another $40,000 there in the budget. Public Works, we had an increase of $190,000. That's primarily due to the uncontrollable energy increases and water rate increases of 20%. Transfer station, we had a decrease of $8,322. That's primarily because the town residents were able to recycle more than they have in the past. We don't pay anything for recycled materials, so there was more recycling, less waste, so we're able to actually save some money there, which is, I must say, highly unusual. And then we had, with regards to personnel, we had reductions in transfers out. We had reductions in road maintenance and separation benefits, which we felt we weren't going to have many people separating this year, so we were able to reduce those funds. And other things where we're able to have pretty much no increases included things like supplies, professional dues, legal fees, and uniforms. So this slide shows the number of full-time equivalents that we've had over the last 6 years, and we started off with 61. We currently have 63. It's gone up, it's gone down. The good news is it's going down. And we've been able to become more efficient with the employees that we have on board and realize that we can do without certain employees as well. So in closing, I'd just like to say that our vision for the future, just something to keep in mind, is that we are expanding the sidewalk system in town. Todd Rowland is doing a fantastic job of orchestrating this whole effort. It's a 2 to 3 year project. It'll probably start construction sometime next year, and we're going to have some incredible sidewalks put in town. Hopefully landowners won't get too upset with a sidewalk going by their front door, because it does give great opportunities for the public to get out and walk and be safe while you're walking, not walking on the street. We're also planning on expanding the senior center. This is something we've been thinking about for years. As you know, we had a community center concept a couple of years ago that was not supported by the referendum. We expect the senior center to be more than doubled in size, and it will be also available for use more than just seniors. So it'll be more of also will be somewhat of a community center as well. There's no swimming pool, so you don't have to worry about that. And I would kind of like to see one myself, but no, I'm practical enough to know that swimming pools are not in mode these days. And we're also talking about developing affordable housing here in town. As you know, over the last 4 years, we've been dealing with Wind Development, a company out of Boston. The thinking was that they were planning a building on the old mill site, Somersville Mill site in Somersville. But as it turned out, their final figures were just too expensive for the Department of Housing to support. So they, after 4 years of effort, we've really got nothing to show for it, unfortunately. So we put together a team here in Town Hall and came up with another concept which will also provide the town with additional housing. And in this case, of course, like with the center in Somersville, it would be low-income housing. So we're proposing an increase at the Woodcrest facility on town-owned property that's adjacent to the existing Woodcrest both Phase 1 and Phase 2, which have been built in prior years. We're referring to this as Woodcrest Phase 3. We've talked to the Department of Housing, and we can't build more than 20 units in the first phase of this, first part of this. But the Department of Housing has told us that they'll provide 100% financing. So it's not going to cost the town anything. Or I can't say nothing, but it's not going to cost the town much money. And we're looking forward to putting this together. I've been working with David Pinney, who chairs the Summers Housing Authority, and they're also very excited about it as well.
Question?
Where is that going to be located?
Okay, yeah, good question. So there was some confusion when I first mentioned this a couple of months ago. The person who wrote it up and put it on Summers Forum said it was going to be at the Summersville Mill site. That's incorrect. It's going to be adjacent to the existing Woodcrest housing. As you know, we've got two different phases for Woodcrest. The first phase is all one story. The second phase is the 2 stories, I believe. And this would probably be 2-story, I believe.
We don't know where that is, Woodcrest.
Woodcrest, it's right up
The post
right
office.
up on Battle Street.
On Battle. The post office across the street.
No, the Woodcrest site itself.
Yeah, you go up Battle Street, it's on the left.
Further back in.
The first, what you first see are the one-level buildings, and behind it is the Phase 2, which is the 2-story buildings. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I hope I leave here still everyone's favorite finance officer. So as you can see, after the presentations from the town and the Board of Ed, their respective budgets are listed. Debt service and capital improvement are the two that have not been discussed. These 2 line items, this will be the 3rd year of flat funding these 2 line items. In that same 3-year time period, we've issued a $2 million bond last year that we have now begun paying on. And about a month ago, we issued a $2 million band, which is a bond anticipation note that will roll over next year into a bond when we finalize the roads for year 3. We'll begin seeing payments on that in fiscal year 2029. Our strategy is to replace old debt with new debt so that we can continue improvements to infrastructure and keep it flat funded so that there's no tax impact to residents. Pie chart of the allocations. The Board of Education makes up 73% of the budget, while town government is 22%. Debt service and capital improvement make up the other 5% of the budget. Annual growth rate over the last 9 years has been 3.01%. The average inflation rate at the same time period has been 3.34%. Our current year inflation rate as of March 31 was 2.41%, so almost in line with our budget. It does go with saying that this number right here was while we were developing that budget March of 2020 when COVID broke out and the world shut down. So as you can see, after that, inflation spikes, 7.8%, 6% the following year. The town of Summers navigated these large inflation rates by using our fund balance that we will discuss later. The Board of Finance smoothed the tax impact by planning rather than knee-jerk reactions. Last 9 years budget history. Total budget has gone up just over $10 million in that same time period. Projected revenues, property taxes make up 75% of the budget, while state aid is 21%, basically a 3-to-1 ratio. The same time period as spoken from before in fiscal 19, state aid was 25% of our budget, while taxes were 71%. So as you can see, there's an inverse reaction there. For every dollar the state cuts us, we have to get it from somewhere. Grand list changes over the years. 2020 was our last reval year. And while it was a small reval year, there was a slight growth at that time. 2025 is the current reval year that we just finished back in October. And as you can see, there's a large growth in the grand list.
Excuse me. What is a grand list?
A grand list is a list of all taxable property in town.
Thank you.
Including cars?
Cars, personal property, and real estate, yes.
Can you read what the grand list is currently? Can't read those numbers.
I don't have the exact number. It's about 1,317,000,000, somewhere around there. I don't have the exact number on here.
Wow. 975-414-304.
That was last year.
Yeah, it said 2025.
That's an incorrect number.
It is?
I can guarantee you that.
Okay.
Changes over the years. The blue is personal property in town. Taxable personal property is businesses. Annually, they're required to notify the town of assets that they use to run their businesses. Their submissions develop that grand list, or that portion of the grand list, and becomes taxable property in town. The orange represents motor vehicles. Ups and downs with motor vehicles depending on when people buy new cars. 2024, the drop was directly a cause of the change in state law, where they changed the way that cars are assessed in town, or statewide. It used to be done on an NADA book value. The state of Connecticut changed it to an MSRP and a sliding scale depreciation schedule. So everybody's favorite topic, mill rate changes. Our fiscal 2026 budget, the current one that we are in until June, was $41,816,120. The mill rate was 30.21 mils. Revaluation was completed October 1 of 2025. Upon that completion, we took the current year spending and adjusted the mill rate to give us a new baseline and what we would need for the same level of spending. That decreased the mill rate by 7.81 down to 22.4. That would be what we would need for the same amount of spending. In fiscal 27, this budget requires a 2.13 mil increase from that 22.4, bringing the estimate or the proposed mill rate to 24.53. It goes without saying, fiscal 27 started as a rough time period to begin with. We had a state aid reduction of $165,000. As the economy has begun to level itself since COVID, interest rates are now beginning to come back down, which is great for people borrowing, but not great for people who are trying to make money on their holdings. Our estimated reduction in bank interest is about $200,000. There was also an unfunded mandate from the state of Connecticut for any 100% permanently and totally disabled veterans that their houses are 100% tax exempt. In town of Somers, that cost us $250,000 in taxes. And then last year, the Board of Finance used one-time fund balance usage of just over $1.1 million. So before any expenditures were put on the board, we were starting at a $1.7 million deficit. That alone required a 1.37 mil increase just to get back to zero. So all new expenses this year are the equivalent of 0.76 mils.
I have a question. Earlier you had said 8% on average, 7 or 8% salary increase for everyone in the town. What was the dollar value of that?
About 190,000 total.
90.
Yep. Mill rate history over the years. 2019, 2020, and 2021, the mill rate remained flat for years. 2022 was the implementation of the last reval. The mill rate went down 0.71 net because of that reval. Since then, it's crept back up just under 4 mils, about 3.5 mils from where it was after the last reval. Then reval this year goes into effect, and it's a 5.68 net decrease in the mill rate again. So the snapshot of the average homeowner in town, 2024 grand list, real estate and motor vehicles, at 30.21 mils. The tax bill would have been about $7,500 for the year total. The 2025 grand list, real estate grows, while motor vehicles depreciate, and the tax and the mill rate directly goes down on that as well. So that same scenario would be an increase of $493 total for net tax effect. The assessed value by mill rate. The average assessed home in town is $322,487. That's a full value home of $460,000. So not a shack on the side of the road by any means. A lot nicer than what I live in Manchester. But as you can see, depending on where you fall in that spectrum, what the increases would mean across the board on average.
Question on that. According to what we received, it's an 8.69% average increase. For myself personally, it's almost 25% increase. So I randomly picked 7 other properties. It came up with a 16% increase, and this is just real estate, not personal properties, because I wasn't going through that. I'm anal, but not that anal. I don't get where you come up with only 8.69% increase.
It's just an average. There were some that only went up 1 or 2%.
Really?
It varies by home.
They were very lucky.
It varies
very
by home.
lucky. Because, my 25 is not working.
So over the years, so as I mentioned earlier, with fund balance and the strategic use of fund balance, over the last 7 years, the Board of Finance has used over $4.5 million to offset tax increases. And while it's an offset, it's truly a deferral of taxation. You're using today's money to pay for tomorrow's bills. You can only spend $1 one time. That $4.5 million is equal to a 3.49 mil increase at today's present value. At the time of use, it was equal to a 4.7 mil increase. The Board of Finance's policy is to maintain a minimum of 15% unrestricted fund balance. In fiscal 27, the budget calls for no use of fund balance because the current reserves are under that 15 at 14.1%. This is what we have used year after year over the last 7 years. Goes to say these 3 years here, about $2.1 million over the last 3 years. It's about $700,000 a year on average. At the time, that's equal to about 1 mil per year at the time of usage.
Sir, what's the mill rate going to be?
24.53 is the proposed mill rate.
1.3 at
5.3.
5.3.
So over the years, the unassigned fund balance has come down. The orange line represents the best practices nationwide. The gray line represents the Board of Finance's policy of 15% of holdings. And as you can see, we currently sit here at 14.1. And what that means is when we go for credit rating, when we go to bond to pave roads or to build a building or to put HVAC in schools, being underneath not only the gray line, but also being underneath the orange line impacts your credit rating. Spending $1 today versus your interest rate going up 30% or 0.3% and costing you an additional $15,000, $20,000 a year for 20 years is really the difference in that.
Why did we allow that to happen? Why didn't we just pay along the way as opposed to defer it to this point where we're not even making interest? I think that this is reflecting the decrease in interest we're making on our monies, correct? And why did we let this happen? What's fiscally responsible?
I would say that is at the discretion of the Board of Finance. That was their decision to not tax versus using money to defer that tax increase.
So essentially that we overtaxed you by $7 to $8 million over the last 6 to 7 years. So we felt that was your money, and we gave it back to you in a lower mill increase. But those two lines intersected to today, where you're looking. Excuse me?
It bit us in the ass.
Well, that'd be something your husband should probably do. So, but that's the logic behind it. We overtaxed you, and we're giving it, we're at the point now where we need to recover some of that. But the 15% we need in reserves is a very important point, because when we go to borrow money to redo the roads and infrastructure, that money will cost us more. So we're trying with this mill increase to pull a little money back from the Board of Ed and the selectmen at the end of the year, which we need about $300,000 to $500,000. Get a little more money from the state who cut us. They're sitting on $6 to $8 billion, and they're cutting us. And then they changed the laws on our tax policy with unfunded requirements and motor vehicle changes. The veterans deserve everything they should get, but they don't fund any of that, so we eat it. You're paying for that. So that is why we used fund balance, to cover those expenses. Go ahead, Brian. Thank you.
I just has a quick question.
Yeah, so at this time, we'll open up public comments. Come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record so that we have it on record. And then feel free to ask your questions or comments.
Just raise my hand and speak loudly.
Unfortunately, no. For the record, we do need it properly.
Hi, good evening. George Roberts, 8 Autumn Lane, Summers Village. A couple things. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, but I did the math on 1,323 students versus what you're looking for. I get $23,652 a student versus the $21,000 that was on the screen. Cost.
23 was projected for next year. That's not this year's population.
Okay, so is it going to be lower next year?
No, it's actually going to be higher.
Okay, so that threw that one out. So how come it showed 21,000 when it's going to be more? That's my question. First question. Second question is, I think you're missing a slide, and the slide would be, who's going to work on trying to get some commercial business in town to try to offset some of this fees that we're paying taxes? Are we trying at all to get any commercial businesses whatsoever?
That was going to be my question.
I don't know who's in charge of that.
Well, I can tell you we've got a new coffee shop opening up on the 27th of this month.
Well, I'm talking about real business.
Well, hey, come on, that's real business.
I understand a coffee shop is a coffee shop, but I'm looking for anybody that's trying to get more business. That's fair. That's a fair question.
The Economic Development Commission certainly has that task to do that, and the Board of Selectmen has been very supportive of any efforts in that direction. But there are very few properties available in town to attract big commercial business.
As a whole in the area, we still should be the lowest taxed town, correct?
I think we are.
Yeah. So that should attract somebody. I would just say.
But again, the thing is, we do not have the land that you can develop to build like a manufacturing facility.
Well, they don't have to be that big, but anyways, that's the point I want to get across.
There, you remember Conville? Remember the company Conville?
No.
You don't?
No.
Over near the Forktown Fairgrounds?
Egypt Road.
Egypt Road?
No.
Well, this company was making things and selling them all over the world. They were an extremely successful company. They wanted to expand across the street, into the field across the street there. They were told they could not. They are now in infield.
Yeah.
And this is, I was on the EDC for 10 years.
Economic development.
And it was very frustrating because we were not able to get, pharmacy in town. Every time we tried to get businesses in this town, rezone things in the town so we could get, develop things to increase the grant list and bring more services into this town. It just didn't happen. And that's why it ends up on you, the taxpayer, because the people in this town have refused to have businesses come into this town and to have housing come into this town, and that's why you don't have a grant list.
Well, even over at Summers Village, we have no kids in the school system. We pay for our own roads. We plow for our own roads. We pay for everything. Okay.
Yeah.
And we're paying the same tax money, which I guess that's the way it was created. But that's another issue where we're paying for everybody else's.
But that's a decision you made when you chose that property.
Understood. But that's what I said. Okay. But again, once again, I'd like to see some commercial growth. I think that's fair.
I would agree with you, sir.
Okay.
I think a lot of us support that for sure.
We would support that.
Am I wrong on that math on the kids?
I don't know. Were you going off of the projection? Because that's an average, sir.
I took your number from what? The proposed budget is $31,292,381. I divided by 1,323, whatever that number is. Comes up to 23,652. On your slide said 21,000 change. Was that old number? I'm just asking.
No.
I can help with this.
Okay.
I am the school business manager. So the 21,000 is the per pupil based on last year's budget and last year's student count. That's an audited number through the state. This year is probably going to be in about the 22,000. It's about $1,000 more per student, and that's what our budget increase was for this current year that we're living in now. But we'll have that audited number. Yeah, and then next year, it's approximately going to be about $600 per student that we spend more for next year.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Thanks.
You're up.
I think I already got my question answered.
Okay.
But my name is Roger Barbosa. I live at 136 Turnpike Road. When you guys are creating your budget, are you given an initial target to reach? I know in my job, when I have a budget, I'm given a target to reach, and I have to get to that number or less. So I'm just wondering if the same type of process is used here. I know you had indicated, Dr. Galloway, that you gave back several $100,000. Now, was that part of you missed your target that was given to you, and you were forced to go back and take money out? I'm just trying to understand how it's done.
Go ahead.
Can I take the first shot at that? I wasn't given a target per se, but I know where we came in last year when I presented the budget here, and that calculation is always in our head. So last year's budget percentage was 5.68. We needed new curriculum with language arts, mathematics. So I had the 5.68 in my head, knowing I could not come back to this group with another 5.68. So over the course of the year, we try to realize efficiencies by selling back technology. If somebody leaves the district, do we really need that position? So those are the things that go into reducing the budget over the course of the year. So no one gave me a number per se. I just knew from this group that I couldn't come in where I couldn't come in at.
Okay. So government budgeting is somewhat different than the private sector.
Your contracts, there's no flexibility with that.
That's
stuff.
Bruce Devlin, he's on the Board of Finance. So government, there's mandates that come in from the state that we didn't have last year. It's a very fluid process, and even today, the mill rate increase is the worst case scenario. If the state were to give us $750,000 before they adjourn on May 5th, which is very unlikely, everything would change. That's our worst case scenario. but it's not the same as the private sector or you're building your family budget. There's a lot of unknowns as we go through the process, especially when it parallels what's going on in the legislature at the same time, because they're doing things that no one knows is going on, and then boom, they pass a law and we eat it, just like we did with the
No,
vets.
and I understand that, but I
But
think,
the targeting is it always is, like the selectmen always started zero-based.
Right.
They started zero. He starts at zero, and then he has his contracts, he has, fuel costs that are anticipated.
but I think it's a bitter pill for everybody here to swallow on top of reevaluation. I mean, I expected my house to go up in value. I know that's going to be a tax increase. I've talked with Brian. He told me the mill rate would go down. I go, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be a
They
hit.
have to generate the same amount of money, or
Understood.
more.
Understood.
State would do their part.
The state is really the
Yeah.
entity that's putting the screws to us, so
Yes.
biting you in the ass, ma'am. Not me, or this board.
Biting us all.
Go ahead, Ralph.
Ralph Williams, 42 Springfield Road. I'm not going to complain about the spending proposals. I think on balance, you've pretty well explained them, and they're pretty well argued. What I am going to complain about a little bit toward the finance administration, be a little too much wishful thinking and too little public communication. You know that we're going to have reduced revenues both because of the recalculation of the car valuations and the veterans by last summer.
No, we knew September, October when we started developing the budget. Yep.
Okay. I know that watching my own CDs roll over the last year and a half, the interest rates have been going nowhere but down.
Yep.
So that was something that could have been anticipated.
I mean, it was. Last year, we anticipated it as well. We are on track to hit our targets this year, but I mean, they've gone down 1.5% since this time last year. So,
And your estimate of the impact of evaluation sort of startles me, because I do live in that little shack by the side of the road. And my assessment went up 54.5%. And I did the math of saying what the equalized grand mill rate would have been for me to have generated the same, and it would have been 19.5 mills. So what I'm looking at here is something on the order of a 25 to 26% tax increase for the coming year on my house alone, never mind cars, which sort of it took my breath away. As I say, I understand you did a few things. Gee, guys, you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have kept our tax rate quite so low. You should have kept that 15 to 16% cushion.
I agree.
Cushion, things like this.
I agree.
But also, I think there should have been some indication earlier in the process publicly. I don't know whether a statement or something on the town's website to say we are facing some serious circumstances this year. I know from my years as a reporter, any year there was a revaluation, yeah, sure, the real rate's going to go down, the taxes are going to go up. This is one of the few times I've seen, wait, the tax rate effectively is going to go up while the reval's going on. People should have known that, so they would just be sort of going like this. There should have been, actually, for that matter, when the reval came out in the fall, the assessor's office should have come out with some sort of analysis posted on the town's website. I don't mailed out any which way, which have said the average house went up this much. It should have been something that was buried in the minutes of the Board of Finance meetings in February.
All of that was reported either during a Board of Finance or a Board of Selectmen meeting.
Okay.
So, honestly, some of the words that came out of your mouth, I can remember Selectman Meyer.
I knew that because I looked at the minutes, but I think for the average person who isn't as tedious as me and doesn't look at minutes, there should have been some sort of further indication.
Mm-hmm.
I'm likely to vote for this budget and choke on it, but it would have been a little easier if I'd known it was coming. Thank you.
To your point also, Ralph, we've seen since October, when the grand list was signed off on and so forth, we've already seen houses selling and transfers in town 20% higher than homes were valued at 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it, it's a hard pill to swallow, and the housing market has exploded, and that's out of our control.
Next. My name
also live in Summers Village, and my question deals with the discrepancy and assessment changes within the village. I did a spot sampling of assessment increases within the village, not specifically looking for the lowest or the highest. And I'd point out, as you know, that the property there is pretty much similar. Same age, same number of bedrooms, garages, and so forth. And I found percentage of assessment increases as low as under 30% and as high as over 47%. In the same community, the same age houses, the same types of houses, and I can't understand that. I understand the increases due to the housing market and all the other issues, but the discrepancy is my question.
Yeah, I mean, we hire a company to do that for us. We don't personally handle the assessments on it. Those are the values that Vision Government Solutions came up with. A letter was sent to every homeowner, and everybody was given the chance to appeal their assessment.
That's correct, and pardon me for interrupting.
No.
By the time that letter was sent out, there was no mill rate cited. So
Correct.
we really had no idea what the dollar increase is going to be.
Bingo.
And does anybody,
I mean, at the time, we didn't know what it was going to be because we didn't have any expenditure budgets done.
any of the town officers monitor this company to see that they're,
The assessor's office does, yes.
and can anyone explain why the discrepancy?
Honestly, I guess you'd have to contact the assessor and ask her professional opinion. To the point of the
But
mill
that's
rate.
something we should look into.
Yeah.
We should look into that.
To your point of the mill rate, though, I mean, in October, when the grand list was completed, we hadn't even received budgets from departments yet, so we didn't know what the expenses were going to be to determine what a mill rate would have been.
But that doesn't explain in any way why one piece of property increases less than 30% and another increases more than 47%. That's a huge spread.
Yeah. No, I would say ask the assessor.
It's
She
a
might be able to
cookie
give you a
cutter
better answer.
complex.
Will somebody get back to our community and let us know? So we
If you send
understand?
an email to Karen Neal, she can respond to you, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good evening. Laura Cervoni, 30 Nutmeg. I have a couple of questions. Do you have a percent of people who work for the town of Summers who live in town?
I don't have a percentage on hand. I could probably
I'm
get you
interested
one.
to know.
But I'd say it's 50% or less.
Okay. How can we afford to build a new senior center?
That's what we're looking at, is what it's going to cost and how we would project that out and how we would pay for it. It would be with expiring debt and replacing it with new debt. And
as far as any other lower income, it will affect the town because we will get that in the schooling and everything else that is going to feel the crunch of a new whatever number of apartments there might be. So that said, there's also a question about if you can do anything about the number of trucks that use the Summers Road, even though there's a sign that says trucks are asked not to use this road. The road is newly redone, and trucks are up and down that road all the time, horrendously. I leave at 6 o'clock in the morning, and trucks come barreling through at different times. It's not just Martin Brower, but Martin Brower's a big one. And they're in Enfield. Maybe we should tax them for coming into our streets.
I wish we could.
Good evening. Nick Pappas, 5 Bilton Road. Thank you guys for the presentation tonight. Obviously, I'm in a different generation than a lot of folks in this room. No offense to anyone here. But built the house here about 9 years ago in town. Always loved and respected this town. Grew up in East Long Meadow. Conservative gentleman myself, and
it's become exponentially expensive to live in this town. Our home valuation went up about 40%. And then with the mill rate on top of that, I had to, forgive me for the tears, I had to put down our pup yesterday morning who needed about a $1,500 procedure that we couldn't afford in our budget, just anticipating this increase in our property taxes. So it's tough. I work for a major hospital in the state. I won't state the name, but every year, the last 5 years since COVID, we've had to decrease our budget and find money, whether it was eliminating positions, cutting costs, bringing consultants in, et cetera. I'd appreciate if we could apply that same methodology to the town so I can afford to live in this town and raise a family here. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Cheryl Humble, 3 High Meadows Crossing. Just have a couple of questions about comments that were made during the presentations. That you compared Summers to other neighboring or comparable sized towns, and that our expenses and revenue were comparable. And I'd really like to see the raw data behind those statements. It would be very helpful before I vote on the referendum to actually study your decks. And if there's a way for us to get copies of the decks, that would be extremely helpful.
Of this slide deck?
Yours.
This is up on
Tim's,
is up on the town website under the Board of Finance
Tim
budget
and
page.
Galloway's also on the website.
Yep, it's all 55 pages.
Great,
is on
great.
one slide.
Okay, and then specific comments. I met with Tim about the elementary school HVAC issue. Where does that stand, and is that going to be another major hit with taxes? That's number one question. Number two question has to do with the benefit packages, both at the school and the town, particularly the health insurance package. I'm curious what the staff or employee contribution is toward premiums. And then just, again, our school, I looked at metrics for comparing with Suffield and Ellington and Enfield, and things like per pupil spending was higher, but thank you for the clarification about that this year versus next year. But it's still higher than some of the other towns. Teacher-student ratios, I'm curious about that, where we stand compared to these surrounding towns. So those kinds of, apples to apples, basically data for us to say the town is not overspending. You're curtailing expenses. I'm very curious about contracts in the town. What gets contracted out versus employees handling the expenses rather than outsourcing. So thank you very much.
Would you say your last name was, by the way? Your last name?
Humble.
Gotcha.
Can I just respond to, I have the answer to at least one that you're looking for.
Yep.
Regarding the employee cost shares.
Yeah.
For our administrators, they're at 24%. For our teachers, they're at 23%. For next year, our secretaries are at 20%. And the non-bargaining on unaffiliated folks range from 20% to 24%.
And do you negotiate with all the health plans?
We're on the state plan. We're on the state plan currently.
Oh, you're on the state plan.
Yes.
Okay. And then, details about the benefit package for both town employees and the staff at the schools would be very helpful.
Okay.
So, and as far as the town side goes, it's proposed at 12.5% cost share for town employees right now.
With regard to the HVAC, the town received a grant from the state of Connecticut, and I believe about 64%, so 64% of that project would be paid for by the state of Connecticut. we're in the process of, going through the bureaucratic jungle to get that funded. The debt service piece of that from the town side would come from when other debt service retires. It actually could be a small amount of savings.
Will
overall.
that grant expire?
This one does not expire, no. Unless we expire trying to implement it. Which is probably a good.
Right. Hi, everyone. I wanted to thank all of you for your presentations. One thing I know is that everyone seated here and all your colleagues on the boards
Here's my assessment.
don't, oh, sorry, my name is Lisa Horan, 43 Shady Dell Lane. I know that the boards in this town squeeze a penny harder than anyone I know. You're not, you think about the budget from, it doesn't matter if you live in Summers, if an employee lives in Summers or out of town, you're professionals and you are the number one consideration is to get the maximum that you can for every tax dollar, and I really appreciate that. I know that in Summers we have a great quality of life. We have quality public education, as Dr. Galloway said. Just in the 3 years he's been here, recognition at all 3 schools. We have a low population density, which makes it really nice to live here. That creates challenges in terms of the grand list and the revenues. We have a dedication to preserving open space with the National Conservation Land Trust and the state forest lands, also land that's not taxable. We have land devoted to farming that's taxed at a lower rate or not at all. And so a lot of the things that make this town so nice to live in create revenue challenges. A good school system requires moderately but steadily increasing expenditures to expand and improve staff, programs, services, technology, equipment, and the physical plant. A low population density and fewer businesses means that fewer homeowners and business owners are paying property tax. A large amount of land devoted to conservation and farming means a significant portion of land in Summers is either taxed at a reduced rate or entirely exempted. And then there's just the challenges for budgeting this year with reduced state aid, state-mandated policies that force towns to spend with no additional funding from the state, federal budget cuts under the Trump administration, reduced interest on town assets, and reduced taxes collected from town veterans as mandated by the state. Since the education budget is the lion's share of the overall budget, I just want to point out that when the education budget request increases, it's overwhelmingly due to the need to try to bring staff, salaries, and benefits even somewhat close to competitive with other school systems. Also, the ever upward spiral of healthcare costs. Nothing anyone can do about that, apparently, in a capitalist healthcare system. And the constant increasing costs of electricity and gas. These are the main drivers of the education budget increases. There's nothing the Board of Ed or the Board of Finance can do to change these realities. So they look for alternatives and savings where they can. Of the 30 school districts in Summers' DRG, that's a group of towns that are socioeconomically similar to Summers. 30 schools. The most recent data for 24-25 says only 7 of those 30 spend less per pupil on education than Summers does. I don't think we want a race to the bottom in education spending. I don't have children in the Summers public schools, but why care about school quality? Aside from the altruistic reasons of the worth of every child and wanting each to realize their full potential, let's be self-interested if you wish. First, children who are well educated will contribute more fully to the society that we share with them.
And second, in pure economic self-interest, the quality of a town's public schools significantly impacts a home's property value appreciation and resale value. So it makes all of our homes retain and increase in value. And all of the neighboring towns are dealing with the same funding challenges. We all know in our home budgets that costs go up all the time. The towns and the schools' budgets are not immune to this basic reality, and they have to be faced. I don't think that we want a race to the bottom in staffing, and we can't recruit good staff if our salaries and benefits aren't at least maybe just a little worse than where they could go elsewhere. The increase in home values that's affecting all of us, that's a product of supply and demand. Demand goes up, supply isn't increasing, prices go up. There's nothing these people can do about that. We need policies in this country and in the state to increase the supply of housing. That's not these people's purview. So I just ask, what cuts would you make to the budget? Like they said, the budgets line item by line item are on the town websites. Look them over. Where would you cut? You're going to cut teachers? Salaries and benefits? I say no. That's all. Sorry.
What up, sir?
Hi, Steve Bonacera, 265 Stafford Road. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for the presentation that you gave. It's a difficult topic. It's always harder to do these things in times of where everyone's getting squeezed. And right now everyone's getting squeezed. So you had a difficult case to make, and I think you made a very justifiable set of efforts to make that case. My question is, what does Plan B look like? To put, if this does not get passed, what does the council plan to do in terms of balancing the budget? What does that look like? Who does that impact the most?
Good question.
We will cut.
Where will you cut? Who will you cut? What will you cut?
The Board of Ed has already made substantial cuts. I think 600,000 you cut.
Over 600.
From their initial presentation to 2 weeks later. So some of those cuts would have to come from the town, unfortunately, the town side of government.
And
we can't cut much in capital improvement because those are all fixed costs for lease for, the trucks that plow the roads and ambulances. A lot of those are leased. God forbid we touch the transfer station, but that would be one of the areas we would have to look at. But I would have to defer back to the first selectman and the selectman to come up with a plan to give us some options. Tim?
Yeah, I can tell you the transfer station would not be considered a good place to cut. I think we'd have to consider reducing services, social services, services for the senior center,
I think
parks.
One of the things that Dr. Galloway provided in one of his very first slides was one of the C's was communication. I think it's critical before this goes to a vote that the council communicate with the population of this town about exactly what is at stake. This is, no one likes to vote to get their taxes raised. The issue is, will the pain by not doing this exceed the pain of what you've reasonably come up with as an alternative?
That's an excellent point. I really appreciate that, and I'm a big supporter of that approach myself.
Thank you very much.
In fact, Tim and I talked before this meeting about sending out another flyer to talk about those very specific issues we face. Please.
Hi, my name is Emily Getman-Dreyer. I live at 102 Stebbins Road. Thanks for the presentations. I have 3 girls in the Summers Public School System, and we're very happy with the way the direction that the school system is taking, so thank you. And I agree with the comment made earlier that we don't want to see a race to the bottom in terms of spending. When I reviewed the expense proposals made by the town and by the Board of Ed, I found them all reasonable. The gap that we're looking at here and the reason for the tax increase is, of course, this spend down on essentially savings that the town had. And what I'd like to know is how can we get more money from the state? Is that a matter of applying for various grants? Is that a matter of making sure that the representatives we have in the state legislature are working for us? And I know that those efforts wouldn't apply to this budget that we're proposing now, but what can and should be done, and how can we increase those efforts or make them more productive? Thank you.
Yeah, Curtin Vale and John Kissel, yeah. Do nothing.
Nobody understands. Hi, guys. Steve Krasinski, 55 Wells Road. Okay, I'm one of those guys who have a 56% increase on my evaluation. My taxes are going up $1,800. Been here for 55 years. I've never seen this in my life, okay? Then I found out my taxes didn't go up $1,800. It went up $1,815 because I made a trip to the dump. I found out the selectmen, Tim, have increased the fees $15. Now we're being whacked. We're being whacked on our taxes, and you're whacking us another measly $15. Come on. You should be able to afford not to do it, okay? So relook at it, will you? Okay?
We'll look at it.
All right, next subject. Thing about 10 years ago, Malloy whacked us for $1 million. He cut our aid $1 million because he had a bad budget year, okay? He then turned around on the 12th hour and found $10 million to give to Hartford to pay for the loan for the Duncan Park. We never recovered that $1 million. So part of our problem in this town is the state of Connecticut. I don't know how hard you guys have tried with the representatives, but I think if you do, you may not get a lot of results. But those are the guys that have got to do something for us because we're being whacked by the state constantly. We should be getting more money from them, and we're not getting it. I'll give you a suggestion, Tim. Would it be any good if we had a liaison committee from this town to do legislative type, I'll say, badgering to try to get money?
It would be helpful. I mean, we did have a meeting with
Kissel and Vale,
Representative Vale and Senator Kissel.
Do any good?
About 2 months ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
I don't know whether I don't know whether it did any good or not, but
okay, exactly.
They stayed for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
They answered questions. They were very polite and tried to explain what was going on at the state level. But as you know, at the state level, things are very political, and it's hard to see what's going on. You know what I mean?
Well, you can see what
back rooms, and we can try to put pressure on them, but and we have talked to our state representatives about that.
Okay, but I think it's the wrong party to be talking to because the Democrats are in control. It's Ritter and it's Looney. Those guys there, okay? They're the ones out of control. They're controlling money. And also, it's coming out of Lamont's budget directive at first, okay? And they're not doing anything for the town. And in fact, they're not doing much for the small towns. They're all doing it for the big cities.
Yeah, we agree with all of that. That's very frustrating.
So it's very frustrating. So I just wondered maybe that would be a suggestion to go and do something, okay? Other than that, Joe, not much we can do. I've looked at your budget, okay? I understand all the problems you got there. I've been through it, okay? Just that I'm being whacked, and I'm not very happy, okay?
We'll see what we can do about the $15
See what
being whacked.
Give us a helping hand, will you? Thank you.
You might want to mention the lobbyists that you had hired to help get grants and stuff.
Yeah, we did have a lobbyist that's been helping us trying to get state grants. But with the demise of the wind project, we basically told the lobbyists we didn't need them anymore. Yeah. So we could save some money there.
What happened to the solar project? Did that get killed too?
We're still working on that. At the landfill?
Yeah. No. The one over on the Bilton Orchard. Over on the Bilton property. What happened to that?
That was privately financed and out of our control, totally, unfortunately.
We had no taxes on it, right?
He broke it up into 4 different LLCs and avoided. So the legislature needs to pass a law.
The state passed a law. We now get, I think it's $8,500 per megawatt And so it's peanuts compared to what its value would be. You figure the one over here on South Road is about $200,000 a year in taxes that we receive. That one would have been more. We're going to get, I want to say it's like $64,000 a year, I think is what we now get from them.
Thanks to our people in Hartford, okay?
Correct. Correct.
You're up.
Hi, how are you? My name is Becky Joyle, and I live on Harvest Hill Drive. I don't have a question. I just wanted to make a comment. I understand and respect that everyone here is thinking carefully about the impact of taxes on their families. That is a very real concern, and I don't take it lightly either. We are a family of 8. My husband and I are raising 6 kids in this town, 4 of whom will be in college at the same time next year, so that's fun. While all of this matters and impacts me deeply, I am here tonight as a teacher in our elementary school, where I've had the privilege of working with children and families in this community for over 2 decades. What I see every day is how quickly needs are changing for students, academically, emotionally, and socially. Our school budget is not just numbers on a page for us. It translates directly into how many adults are available to support children where they struggle, how much individualized help a student can receive when reading doesn't come easily, whether a child has access to counseling, enrichment, or basic interventions that can change the trajectory of their school experience, among other things. And I also want to be clear, I believe very strongly in being responsible with taxpayer dollars. Trust me when I say that educators feel that responsibility every day. At the same time, over my 23 years at SES, I have seen firsthand what happens when supports are reduced. It does not remove need. It concentrates on fewer people and makes it harder for students who are already vulnerable. When we invest in our schools, we are investing in the long-term strength of our community, its property values, its workforce, the young people who will one day be taking care of all of us. I appreciate your time, and I would please ask that before you vote, you consider the impact this budget has, not just on schools, but on the future of our town's children. Strong schools like we have are part of what makes it worth living in Summers. And when we vote no, more cuts are made. Thank you for your time.
Holly Bonacera, 265 Stafford Road, Summers. I have no problem with any of the budgets, the expenditures. I have trouble with the lack of revenue coming from other than property taxes, and I think that we should really come up with some plans to bring businesses here, to generate revenue in other ways, because otherwise we're always going to be in this same situation. Of course, schools cost money, and that's going to be the big ticket item, and it is. It's our responsibility. So I really encourage you to look beyond property taxes. Really.
My name is Donald Thomas. I live at 52 Sky Ridge Drive. My concern is not so much the budget. I haven't had a chance to really look at it close, but more the evaluation and the effect on the evaluation to not only myself, but a number of others that I've talked to here. The evaluation on our property jumped up.
Can you speak up, please?
The evaluation on our property jumped up $146,000 in the evaluation list, which is 56.2%. That means that I'm going to be charged. My taxes will increase by approximately $2,300 a year. I can't afford that. I'm 85 years old. I'm retired. I moved here 15 years ago because of the tax rate. The tax rate was very fair and has been over the years. And it's not so much a tax rate now that I'm looking at, but this reevaluation situation. It's affected not only me, but quite a few other people that have already spoken whose tax evaluation has gone up in that 50% range. I urge you to take a look and see if there's any way that you can use some discretion in delaying or reallocating some of those higher assessments to help some of us out. I can't afford, $1,000 a month in property tax. Just can't do it. If this budget goes through, those tax rates go through, and probably the first thing I will do will put a for sale sign in my house, which is the last thing that I want to do, the very last thing. But you're not going to give me any choice. And it's not you personally. Just understand. It's just a circumstance. To allow a tax increase and the evaluation on my property to go 56% in 1 year is just unacceptable. So,
Yeah. So the revaluation is done every 5 years.
By state statute.
And while I understand the hurt on it, you know, and if you put a for sale sign in front of your house, I mean, I would hate to see a resident have to leave Summers. At the same time, if you listed that house tomorrow, you would probably get 20% more than what we have it valued at. And that's the reality of it.
but that's not helping me.
I understand it's not.
helping- You have these other people here.
I understand it's not.
I'm not saying that, that it may not be worth it, but those tax increases should not come in 1 year. That's what I'm telling you. I've been getting tax increases every year, $300, $400, $500 a year increases on our property. $2,300 in 1 year? No effing way. That just is not acceptable.
A lot of that is, and
all I'm doing is asking you to take a look at that evaluation.
right. And so a lot of what has got us into the problem is that we've, and I hate to use the analogy, we've kicked the can down the road for years and put off taxes that this could have been a smaller increase because the mill rate wouldn't have changed as drastically. But because of kicking the can down the road, there's no more can anymore. It's gone, and now somebody's got to pay the piper. And that's unfortunate. We robbed Peter plenty of years to pay Paul, and now Peter needs a paycheck.
Well, just think about it a little bit. Take a look, okay, and find a way. There's got to be a category of the homes and a percentage of the homes in Summers that are being affected with this huge increase. I know a lot of them where I live are. They're in that 30 to 50, 60%.
I think the average was like 38%.
All at once. And if there isn't something you can come up with that will help defer some of that, at least,
all it would do, it would reduce.
I can't tell you how to do it.
It would reduce the value of the home and increase the mill rate. It's going to be the same dollar either way.
Well, I don't have a solution to it.
Yeah,
I don't have a solution for me too either.
Yeah.
Okay, but as I said, I'm retired. I live on a pension, and I don't get a $100 increase every year.
Yep.
I can't afford that. And I'm not the only one in this town either, I'm sure. You need to take a look, especially at the seniors and the older people in this community, if you expect them to stay. If you don't, if you're looking to force them out, then you leave your budgets the way they are, because that's exactly what you're going to be doing. Thank you.
To the seniors.
Yeah, we did update this senior tax relief ordinance as well recently as also. So I don't know where you stand as far as income, but it may be worth looking into at the assessor's office as well to see if you qualify for any tax relief as well.
Yeah, the bottom line is if you make less than $70,000 income annually, there is potential for some tax relief. Yes, ma'am.
As a couple or a single?
Single.
Either.
Really?
We just made that change effective. When was that effective?
October.
Good evening, all. You're probably tired of hearing us talk, gentlemen.
No, we're not.
I don't see any women up there, but that's another story. I'm Cheryl Vitale. I live on 57 Old Farm Road here in Summers. I've been in real estate for 30 years. I love what I do. And one of the things when I have a client call me that's looking to buy, we talk about the towns. I say, Windsor Locks is good, taxes are low, because the airport helps support it. I said, Summers is a great place to live. It's a small town with a couple of traffic lights, and you know what? Low taxes. It's a great town. It's a great town. And I believe it's a great town. And I'd like to stay the type of town that I can brag about the taxes because it brings in your buyers. It helps your base. We're not Ellington at $13,000 a year. We're getting there. And I want to say something that's embarrassing to you, but I'm going to say it. Shame on you for letting this go so long. You saw a little bit coming, and it's like having a tenant, and you never raise his rent because they love you, and they're good tenants. We're good people. And you don't raise their rent, do you? Why would you? You don't want to lose them. And then you get hit with bad times, and you have no rainy day fund, and you are not ready to go to the dance because you don't have a dress to put on. My taxes are going up 57%. Can I afford it? Yes, I can. But it's not right. And it's especially, I'm going to be 81 years old, especially not right to the old people. The old people are, a lot of them, what? On a fixed income. They're not making $250 a year. Sorry. But you guys got to think about the future for yourselves, the young ones. You got to think about what are you doing to people. They're standing here 85 years old saying, you know what, you're forcing me out. You shouldn't. You should be giving them a break and keep them here until they're dead. It won't be long.
Speak for yourself.
If no one else wanted to speak, I just wanted to address on the revenue side. The first thing is, I think we all agree that if we had a bigger base of businesses in town paying taxes, that would really help. And people are saying, people have come up and said, you need to find a way to bring more business to the town. We have an economic development commission. Get involved is what I would say. Get involved. Go to the commission meetings. Join. My friend here who's been on it says, he said that zoning represents, this is just a big knot. So we can't get businesses because of the zoning rules. Well, the zoning rules make this town nice to live in with big lots and open space. So everything you tinker with has a maybe undesirable effect. But the first thing I want to say is get involved. Join the ECD and help brainstorm fixes for this. And the other thing is the reduction in state aid is appalling. It's been going on I don't know how long. And coincidentally, our state senator, John Kissel, has been representing us for 33 years. Don't ask me what we have to show for that. And our state rep, Kurt Vail, has been representing us for 11 years. So it may be time for some new leadership representing us in state government.
Was that ECD or OCD? Anyway, Jay Farrow, 51 Parsons Road. I've got a couple of questions. One, I know in the recent past, we've been providing emergency services to some of our surrounding communities without being compensated fairly for the expense of that. Has that been rectified?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Second thing is, the politicians that are in Hartford or in Washington, for that matter, are our fault. Nobody else's fault. It's not the board's fault. It's our fault. And the third thing is, taxes, or finances, money, whether it comes from the state or it comes from you guys, it comes out of our pockets. What's the difference?
Yes.
That's it.
Well, the only difference for me is they're taking your money from Summers and spending it in Hartford, Waterbury, New Haven, and Bridgeport.
Certainly that's true.
Because you're paying more than they are, and the bang for their buck in those cities is nowhere near what it could be here.
I do not disagree with that.
Doc?
Yeah. Don't wait, Joe. It's time to vote.
Linda Fallon, 73 Nutmeg Drive. Just a really quick question. First, thanks for your slides tonight. Very informative. Selectman Keeney, you made a statement regarding affordable housing and it being fully funded. Can you define affordable housing and what that will entail? Because what type of affordable housing? If we have children there, Dr. Galloway has already had to cut his budget a lot. So how do we afford to pay for the children that come with that affordable housing?
Okay, there is a age restriction on this housing.
That's what I'm asking.
Absolutely, so.
And is it also work based on a scale of income?
Affordable housing, they take the mean for the greater Hartford community, the mean income, and they take a percentage of that for affordable housing.
So you're not talking voucher?
No, there are different levels. There's 80%,
Yep.
60%, 50%,
Yep.
40%. I think that the target we're looking at is somewhere around probably 65% or so of the mean,
Right.
which I think is right now about $110,000 a year.
Okay.
For the household.
Yeah, I'm very well aware. I grew up in the city, so I understand affordable housing. That's why I'm asking, are we talking Section 8 housing?
No,
Are we
we're not talking Section 8,
based
not at
on
all.
people's income?
No, these are units that will probably cost somewhere around 300 some odd thousand per unit.
Yep.
And we're
So it doesn't affect the school system?
Correct. It probably will not.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
And they still pay rents, but they're reduced rents.
No.
Yeah.
Listen, based on your income, that's all I care about.
Laurie Kuhn, 27 High Meadows Crossing. Food for thought. A neighbor sent me a screenshot of the tax record for Hillsdale College, and it's listed as... Sorry. So a neighbor sent me a screenshot of tax records for Hillsdale College, and it's listed as a church.
Yep.
So that's primo land, primo buildings, many, many houses, and I don't know, maybe that's something we should look into. I know it's not the purview right here, but for townspeople. And also for the lady that, was it you that was worried about the trucks on the road? No.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
she
she's
left.
gone. Well, everybody should know that Oak Ridge Dairy is trying to truck their manure into our town and go all along, probably George Wood or Hurlburt and Fort Bridges, and put it into 4 containers. So you might want to come to the meeting on that.
Thank you.
When's the meeting?
I think it's tomorrow, or Thursday.
Thursday.
6 p.m.
Yeah, please come.
Are there any other questions? Like,
Yeah.
apparently there are.
Just a comment, I think,
Sure.
tonight. Just a comment. Susan Peck, 91 Skyridge Drive. I want to thank all you guys, everybody that works for the town and the boards, especially the boards that don't get paid, for doing what you do. I listen to everybody, and I think, like several people said, there's only so much money you can cut, right? But I do think we talked about voting and about who we vote for. I think we should all get on the phone tomorrow and call our representatives and say, we're from Summers and we want more money from the state. We need more money from the state. Us just sitting here talking to each other isn't going to get any more money from the state. I know just one example. The IRS is saying that they're not going to mail your refund check anymore. You have to give them an account number. Does the government take it over and telling you, you have to do that? We have to keep speaking up. We just have to speak up to them right away. Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the order? We're going to adjourn this portion, and the Board of Finance will now meet and say a prayer.
Thank you all again.
Okay.
I'm gonna support my memory. No, yeah, my missing. It's not good. We got the missing. I don't know if it's them. Look at it. The whole night over the struggle. He throws him out, and I agree. Have it like go from his head to like. I think he has some credit. Right? So I think there's better for us. We'll talk more.
Plumbing and electricity, he's doing that.
That's understandable.
That's something we get. For the next one.
Three for Bill. So we think
I'm quite out of the
phrases because we couldn't get the names, but
I'm like sitting in the bond markets. Right. Can you hear me? Yep. Where you got?
Jordan.
Joe, I'd like Joe to act as chairman pro tem since he's in the room. Any objection?
None. Second.
All in favor? Okay, now I'm fair.
All right, what's the motion?
It's to take it away.
Budget at that amount and submitted. So I make a motion to adopt a town budget of $42,976,089 to be moved and selected for the town meeting. Okay.
See my hand up?
Yeah. Don't give people the amount of time.
All right, let's just motion to adjourn.
Second.
All done?
Adios, muchachos.
Take care.
So basically, you know, when you think about it, everyone's net worth went up 50%.